Moving on, what Brandon thinks is the event of the weekend is not TNA Bound for Glory. It's NXT Halloween Havoc, and it looks like they're taking a page, Shawn Michaels is at least, out of Triple H's book. We got only 5 matches on this card. And the card looks pretty good, headlined by the main event, which is the NXT Championship Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal Devil's Playground match. Trick Williams against a man who, well, I think last year he was on the TNA Bound for Glory card, Ethan Page. Does Ethan Page get his championship back after Trick Williams won it at the CW NXT inaugural show?
No, I think Trick's gonna whoop that Trick, so to speak, and it's gonna be a good match. I mean, they work really well together in the ring. Trick has come a long way since being, I don't want to even downplay it, but he was like Mello's like right hand for a long time, and obviously it's paid dividends because Trick is that guy right now, and he's probably one of the major players in NXT, and it's, you're talking about Royal Rumbles and whatnot. Trick Williams, don't be surprised you hear that music and you hear the whole crowd going, whoop that Trick. Like that could be happening at Royal Rumble here in just a few months. So, Trick's great. Ethan Page has had a pretty good career so far. It's going to be a good match. I'm looking forward to it, but I think Trick's going to pull out the win.
Devil's Playground match, in case you're wondering, it's defined as just your traditional hardcore match. It's just that's the name they put on it, like a Belfast Brawl or a Falls Count Anywhere or no DQ. That's what you're getting with a Devil's Playground match. So it's not like a cell or some sort of structure, like a Punjabi prison or anything. Just pretty much means, all weapons are in play. So, I mean, that's a great way to main event a pay-per-view like Halloween Havoc. And another spin the wheel match, but this one is a tables, ladders, and scares match. That's a little more definitive about what kind of match you're getting there. It's for the North American Championship, but it can only be won by pinfall. That's Tony D'Angelo, who's now the champion, against Obafemi, who, as we know, formerly the champion for this belt, and probably one of the hottest names in NXT for quite a bit, right? If you put up a poster of NXT and wanted to put your pillars up there, this guy was it. Is this guy becoming the North American champion again, or maybe is he going to go on to bigger and better things?
He's going to be into bigger and better things. I think Obafemi, like I just mentioned, he was undefeated until he lost this match. Like WWE sees a lot in him, and I think this plays out where it's going to be a great match. I think the family is going to help Tony D, and I think Tony D retains, and I think Oba is going to move up to the next level where he's going to be challenging Trick Williams at a later date. I can't wait for that. Like, honestly, like Obafemi, like I've been watching a lot more NXT, especially now that it's on CW, and I've been watching that a lot more lately. And I will tell you, like Obafemi, that dude is going to be the next 5 years or so. He's going to be one of the faces facing like Braun Breaker in big matches in the next 5 years. Like that's how good this guy is. So stay tuned for that.
2 other matches we'll talk about because, to be fair, there's a Spin the Wheel, Make the Deal, Spinner's Choice Women's North American Championship match.
Well, hold on. Before we skip that, I don't want to go over that. I think Kalani's going to win. But here's a little side note. I'm not sure if you know this or not. Obviously, we're based out of Central New York, Syracuse, New York area. One of the members of Fatal Attraction, Jasmine Nix, she's from Ballinsville, New York, which is a short drive from Syracuse. So she's a Ballinsville B. So she played soccer at the at Baker High School, which is not too far from Syracuse. So a little shout out to her. Do I think she's going to be in the match? Probably not, and it doesn't really matter because Kalani Jordan is that girl, and I think Kalani Jordan's going to be, she's so young, but she's so good, and I think she's just going to be a pillar for this business for a long time.
It's crazy to think. Yeah, you're just saying in like 2015, 2016, I'm probably waiting in line to get a local ice cream cone in the Central New York area behind her and her mom and dad as she just got off a soccer practice or something stupid like that. And now she's making her way up. I mean, this is like the lowest level of NXT when it comes to championships, but it is a championship match nonetheless.
Exactly.
So to be involved, I mean, hey, again, I think she's probably maybe a little bit away. Everyone is at this level from like a WrestleMania, but WrestleMania 41 might be too close, but WrestleMania 42, you know what I mean? Who knows where we'll be at that time, and that could be, a more obtainable goal when it comes to some of these people being on the main roster, like Andre Chase, and a man who's been on the WrestleMania card to an extent, Ridge Holland in an ambulance match. What do you make, essentially? We know Ridge Holland and how he's trying to redefine himself. He's doing the Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre redefining himself, but instead of leaving WWE as a whole, he's come down to the NXT realm to do it. But what do you make of Andre Chase kind of going up through the ranks. It's been a slow build for him. I feel like he came up around the same time as Joe Gacy, and Joe Gacy now is up there with the Wyatt Six, and Andre Chase slowly but surely through a couple years of takeovers is making himself and pulling himself away from Chase U and making himself a singles competitor.
Yeah, I like this. He, like you said, it's been like a slow burn for him, working his way up the ranks. Him and Ridge Holland, I mean, they've been building that, I think, pretty well. I mean, honestly, the more I sit here and look at this match, Andre Chase is the guy I think wins the match, to be honest with you. I just, I know it's been a slow burn, but he's been a constant. I mean, even with the whole Chase U gimmick, like that's the fans are over with him, and like they've been rooting for Andre Chase for a long time, and I've come around on Andre Chase too. I wasn't a big fan of his in the beginning, but as time has moved on, he's grown on me, and I really like to see what's in store for the future.
He's been in the NXT world now for just under 4 years.
It's a long time.
3.5 years to be at this level, this developmental level. That is a long time, right? Because, yeah. I mean, has WWE even been on Peacock for a full 3.5, like since the changeover from the WWE Network kind of stuff? I was actually unaware that he spent some time, just a couple months, in TNA wrestling before that, and then Ring of Honor for 4 years before that. So, I was actually unaware of that. I knew everyone has a background, but I was unaware of that he's had like a good 10 years of professional wrestling behind him before.
Yeah, Andre Chase is my age. He's 35, so he's been around the block.
And to be fair, I mean, not to make ourselves seem old, but we know about how athletes in this world works. WWE's a little bit different, but yeah, when you get to the age, and you're not on the main roster, yeah, it is like we talked about, definitely earning his way there.
I mean, not to jump too far off the other way, like, another guy that's 34 is Speedball Mike Bailey. But people are like, most sports, like you're 34, you're either out of the sport or, you're almost out of the sport. In wrestling, like AJ Styles, close to 50, still doing it. Randy Orton, same thing. So these guys that are in their mid 30s, they still, barring any injuries or anything like that, they got a solid almost decade plus if they want it.
Yeah, Michael Jordan's first retirement, after he had won the 6 championships and already did the baseball thing and came back to basketball and wore 45 and the whole 9 yards. I think that was at like 34 years old. So that wasn't the baseball retirement.
It was early 30s.
Yes, that wasn't the baseball retirement. That was the after he won his 6th championship retirement. We all know we went on to play a little bit longer with some weird wacky teams like the Wizards. Yeah, but his retirement from the Bulls, essentially as the greatest player of all time, essentially stepping away, was at these ages of like Mike Bailey, who's yet to make it to that big time level, or even like an Andre Chase. So it is crazy how wrestling, as we've learned with people like The Undertaker and Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair, right? The age is a little bit different in wrestling versus the traditional sports. But one match I'm looking forward to, the final match we're going to talk about here for Halloween Havoc, Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade, a huge rivalry between those two over the years in NXT, and they're teaming up to take on the newcomers, Julia, who just made her long-awaited debut in NXT, and a lady who you might recognize from the New Japan Forbidden Door crossover match she just had with Mercedes Moné, and now she's in WWE, and that's Stephanie Vacker. What do you make of Stephanie Vacker in WWE after we, in the North America audience, were really just introduced to her as part of Forbidden Door like 3 months ago?
Well, and that's the thing too. Stephanie, I've heard it so many different ways. Is it Vacker, I think it's Vacker, I think is how she says it. I think that's how
she says it. She's probably got an accent that I don't have. Yes.
Yeah. I don't. I don't have.
I'm gonna say Paris, not Perry. That's what I mean. Like.
But what's funny though? If you look at this matchup, it's two veterans, Julia and Vacker. I think they're both in their 30s, or at least they just hit 30. At least both of them. And you got Roxanne and Cora, who I think were born when we were in early 2000s. So like they're like in their early 20s at this point. So it's like it's a battle of two young bucks versus well-traveled, very experienced competitors. It's a clash. It's a clash versus it's like youth versus the veterans. And you know what? I'm looking forward to this match. I really think this is going to steal the show because it's 4 very talented ladies. I am looking forward to this, and I do think you're not going to halt the momentum of Julia and Stephanie Vacker. Like you're not going to halt that momentum. So I think they're going to win, and I think it's going to be the match of the night.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to that match. It's for no championships, but like you said, it's 21 and 23 years old versus 30 and 31. It's two
Exactly.
people who are huge names coming into NXT, so not the traditional developmental like Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade, who are these youngsters trying to get into wrestling at this level, versus people who we know from wrestling outside of here. So you know what I mean? It's like the traditional NXT development people who were cheerleaders before they got into wrestling, and now they want to
Exactly.
retransition their life versus people who have been wrestling all over the world already and are coming here to essentially get their feet wet in the WWE world. I'm looking forward to this match. I'm hoping it's a good crowd, because as we've learned with NXT recently, you know what I mean? They're kind of going back and forth between being in the Performance Center to being out on the road. This is going to be from Giant Center in Hershey. I was thinking about going. I did one of those things out there with a couple people that said, hey, if you do go, I won't not take a spot in your car. But it doesn't look like I'm going to go after all. But hey, if somebody's driving down to Hershey from the central New York area, because unlike WrestleMania prices, unlike that, the tickets for this are much, much different. I imagine probably 6,000 to 8,000 people, maybe less, maybe more like 5,000, will be on hand at Halloween Havoc the night before. Hershey hosts Monday Night Raw as well. But regardless of the crowd, because we're not those kind of people that take the screenshots like of AEW and the empty crowd, we're
Yeah.
looking for good wrestling. We're looking for entertainment. And most importantly, we're looking for that blow up pumpkin and the Halloween Havoc set, like the WCW back in the day with that big blow up pumpkin. If you give me that, I don't care if there's 5 people in the crowd. That's what I want to see the most.